Hello, hi everyone. Today I am thrilled to have Paty Arazia on the show, the Pitch Perfect, a career coach, sales enablement leader, and team builder who has trained and coached more than 100 sales professionals in her career. She scaled SDR teams, built enabled programs, and now helps faith driven SDRs and AEs level up their careers. She believes coaching and role play aren't just training tactics, but they are game changers. And today we will unpack the fun, awkward, and powerful side of coaching and role play. Hi, Patty. Welcome to Pitch Perfect.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for that amazing intro.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Patty. So, could you give a quick introduction in your own words for the listeners?
Oh man, I feel like you covered it very well, but I would say what I would add to that is my goal in coaching and my mission in life is to empower others to reach their full potential. And that's what I focus on every single day with the way I used to do sales training and the way I now coach. My goal is to bring hope, right? And the way I bring hope is by providing strategies and skills that people can now take control of and act on. So that's the only thing I feel like I would add.
Amazing, Patty. Wonderful. So, Patty, like that, right? So you have coached reps at all stages, SDRs, AEs, even managers, right? So, what's your biggest difference in how you coach each group?
I think it depends on the level of need and where they're at necessarily. So for example, somebody that's starting out as an SDR, and there are some SDRs that have been SDRs for multiple years, right? And so there's a different approach, but it depends on where their skill sets and understanding of sales comes from, right? Somebody that's starting out as an SDR maybe views sales in a very, I guess, I don't know, one dimensional, like I am convincing people this is my role. That's what sales is about, right? And it's about retraining a lot of the time of like, no, you shouldn't be pushing a product on somebody. It's about uncovering, asking questions, right? An account executive, hopefully by this point, already understands that that's not the goal. Otherwise, they might not be hitting quota, which might be part of the training, right? If that's where they're at and they're being pushy, then, but for an AE, it might be about discovery, right? And they're like, having happy ears is what I hear. And they're jumping on the first pain point that shows up. And the training might be more about, let's uncover more, dig deeper. What are some other questions you can focus on? Whether, sales methodologies that are going to help you to really implicate the pain and dig deeper to then sell a bigger solution, to include the package, to make the sale a no-brainer instead of, you get to negotiation and you wondered why you didn't close, even though they showed interest in the beginning, right? So it really depends on there. And then with managers, I think it's way, way less about the sales and way more about the people and how do you approach people? How do you give feedback in a way that is constructive, that shows you care, while also still moving metrics and moving the team forward in the right direction to bring in revenue.
Wonderful, Patty. Very interesting. I have a quick follow-up question on that. Like, which group is generally very difficult to train? Is it the SDRs or the AEs or the managers?
Some people are going to hate me for this, but it's definitely the AEs. The SDRs are eager to learn. They're happy to be there. They're trying to absorb everything. They want to move up. And the AEs, a lot of the time, are like, I already know this. I've been doing this for 5 years. Why do I have to sit in this training? And they tend to be the ones that are a little bit more closed-minded and don't come into it maybe with as much excitement as the SDRs. You have to kind of pull their teeth a little bit.
Wonderful. See, that's what, I was wondering, because, like you said, a lot of AEs, mentioned that they already are aware of it. Probably optimizing them from 80% to bringing them to 90, 100% is something which it is a big challenge in that, right? Patty, some representatives dread role play like it's improv night. How do you get them to see it as a growth tool rather than like a torture for them?
I think, sometimes it is a burden, right? Like, especially when I was in enablement, it's mandatory. Like, you are meeting with me and you don't get a choice, right? Now that I do coaching, it's people want that, right? Like, they're paying to do role play with me to get feedback. So it's completely different. I don't have to convince them anymore. Back when I was an enablement manager, I would look at their calls and come with feedback prepared of, hey, these are some of the calls I've listened to, and here's some areas I see where you could have done this. Right. And now they're not coming from like, oh, I have to do role play and I already know what I'm doing. It's like, oh, okay, actually, I guess maybe they're, if they're, helpful. There are some people that are like, oh, well, I said that in this call because of this. But if they're like, oh, okay, I see there's areas for improvement, then presenting the role play as like a way to let's practice this again can be helpful, and they're more open and welcome to that instead.
Very interesting. So, like, let's dig a little deeper, right? So, you once scaled an SDR team from 20 to 100. Like, that's a great thing. Like, what role did coaching and role play in making that possible, and any insights about it?
Yeah, it was incredibly important to have coaching. I don't know if we had specific like set times to do role play, but listening in, shadowing, being able to create a playbook. That was one of the things that I, along with one of the other managers, built together to be able to scale up that many people. And it was also about empowering the reps, right? Because there's no way. I had a team of 50 at the time, just myself. And then I had two other team leads below me. There's just no way I could have trained all 50 people and listened to every one of their calls or provided, feedback. I try to meet with them on a weekly basis as much as I could. That took a majority of my time. So it's really about empowering others, providing them with the tools. This is what good calls looks like. This is what success looks like. And letting them, empower others through what they're doing if they're being successful as well.
Yeah, wonderful, Patty. I mean, that's quite a challenge, right? Training. I mean, looking at 50 odd people or 100 odd people and getting them to start working is quite a challenge. I mean, amazing, right? So Patty, like when a rep, see in this process, right? When and in like when you're scaling or probably when you're training, when a rep freezes in the middle of a role play, like how do you help them bounce back without shaking their confidence and keeping them up?
I usually don't stop the role play, which makes them laugh. I'll continue. Like, they'll freeze and they're like, I don't know what to say, and I'm like, I'm sorry that the line cut out. Are you saying you don't know what to say to me? And I'll just like keep pretending to be a prospect, and they'll eventually just say something, right? Or they'll like laugh it out of it. And I was like, what if this was a real call, right? You're gonna have to learn to get out of it. I also tell them that it's completely okay if you are stumped to just hang up the call and move on or try again later. I know I have done that before where I completely butchered somebody's name and then I started laughing and I was like, that's it. Like, we're done. That's not, person's not going to get called today. And move on to the next one and just realize that it's okay. There's going to be a lot more prospects out there.
Wonderful. I mean, that is very smart, right? Like, so that even like you said, you're keeping up their confidence and then playing very smart and making sure they don't lose it in the process. That's amazing. Really liked it, the way you handle things. So, what's the one most common mistake that representatives make in role plays, and how do you coach them through it?
I would say it goes not mistake, but like mindset, right? Coming into the role play and treating it like, I don't know, it's not real, right? Like, oh, I would say this. Or, well, if it was an actual prospect, I would probably have pushed further, but they don't because it's a role play, right? Like, playing like you practice is probably the biggest thing. And then the other piece is not necessarily like, oh, this one objection or this other thing, but it's the mindset overall, not just in role play, but in how they're presenting themselves in a call. I tell people, if you are at a state where you have made dials and you are just not mentally there, Like you have gotten rejected, maybe you have gotten, somebody cussed you out, because it does happen. And there's times where you're like, whatever, dude, you've had a rough day. You can hang up and pick up the call again. But sometimes it hurts. Sometimes it becomes personal, right? If you're at that state, the worst thing you can do is make another call, get in another presentation, another demo, try to close somebody. So the mindset going into role play, or the mindset going into any calls, is probably one of the biggest things. Just checking yourself. Like, are you there? And are you ready? And if not, what do you need to do to get there?
So more like practice, practice, practice ensures you're there.
Yeah. I mean, practice is a huge piece, right? I love sales because it's an art and a science. Like you think you get there, but you never really get there. There's always something, you could tweak or learn or do. And so, yeah.
Yeah, true that. Because I often keep telling my folks also, like, see, sales. I mean, when you're talking to your prospects or anything, right? It's more like every prospect is like a fingerprint, unique. You don't know what objections might come. You are prepared for 95%. Probably there is 5% which you are not aware that is going to come in your way. So that's always going to keep you in a position. So one thing. So in the process, what's the wildest customer objection you have thrown at a rep during a role play? Like, and did they survive it? And how was it?
We were calling privately owned practices in my previous company that I worked at. And this actually happened. So I made it part of the role play. Somebody was going on maternity leave. And we were trying to sell them a marketing solution, and they were like, "Oh, I'm going on maternity leave. Like, I don't care about this," right? And the person was like, "Oh, okay, congrats," and then like hung up the phone. Which, like, that is okay, right? If that's not the priority. But I would say that's probably the weirdest one. That's like realistic, not just some random one. Like, how do you respond to that? How do you dig a little bit deeper of, okay, well, the person obviously like freaked out and just hung up, right? But is there anybody running the practice while she's on maternity leave? I mean, that's the next question, right? Are they just shutting down for the next, however long she's on maternity leave? How long is she on maternity leave? How, committed would she be to hop on a call before she goes on maternity leave to get stuff set up, and then let her staff, take care of it so she doesn't have to come back to something and focus on, being behind X amount of months, right? Like, there's still a lot of digging that can be done. And maybe, there is nothing that could come of that. There's like, no, I am shutting down for the next year. I will maybe pick it back up. I don't even know if I want to do this, right? Like, but those questions weren't asked. And so that was probably one of the weirdest real objections that I then have thrown in as a role play objection for people as well.
This is very interesting, Paddy, because this is not something I think team often practices where people, I mean, there's a nice way of saying no from the prospect. Sometimes they're like, we're not ready yet, or probably they keep saying our budgets are not aligned. Maybe we'll look after it in the next quarter. So these are something which we keep hearing often. That's probably nice way of saying no sometimes, but they might be real for sometimes. Like, it all depends on how the SDRs want to handle it, take it, right. Interesting.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, who knows? It could be the most random way to get rejected. But I think in digging, right, you also figure that out and realize, okay, yeah, this person was lying, or it's actually for real.
Nice. Very good. So, Patty, in the process, like, I just like a follow up question to that. So, see, normally there is this preparation that SDRs put in right before the call. So, one thing for role play and all, we keep practicing often and all. But when they're going to a real call and all, what kind of preparation other than role play that they have to look into to handle the call better? More like what? Yeah, continue.
I was going to say, I think the most important piece is having an idea of where their need might be. And I say an idea, right? Because we think maybe their need is this thing, and it's actually this thing, right? And that's where discovery comes into play. But really being able to, I like to say, when you're doing research, you should already know some of the objections that are going to come up, right? You should see, oh, they already have a solution similar to this. That's going to be an objection. Or, they just recently, got funding. So they're going to be, saying maybe they have to evaluate all these different solutions, right? Like you should already be, like almost predicting the objections that you're going to be getting based on the research that you're doing, and making sure this is research on like a specific person. But even before that is making sure that you are calling your very specific ICP, right? Because if you're not focusing on that, you're not focusing on quality, and you're trying to get somebody who, is not the best fit for your solution to buy, it's going to be a very tough sale. And that's where the pushy hit kind of back and forth comes in a play as well.
Got it. So can I put it in this way, like more like so understanding the problem statement of the customer even before we talk to them, where you're exactly presenting, hey, because a lot of times what I realized is when I'm talking to especially sales folks, right? So somehow they try to fit the solution into a problem rather than understanding actually is it a real problem or something, right? I think this is something we miss often. Maybe that needs to be fixed too in the research.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, exactly. It's understanding the problem first and then the solution, right? And I tell people all the time as well, I'm like, there are some people that are not going to be a fit. And they're like, well, what do I do? And I'm like, you let them go. Like you tell them, it sounds like this isn't a fit. If whatever X, Y, and Z happens in the future, you can reach out to us, and they will respect that. They will respect that you didn't try to, shove down your solution down their throat when it's not something that they needed, because not everybody needs, whatever it is you might be selling.
Interesting. Very interesting. So, Paty, like say, if roleplay was a sport, right? Are you and are you more of a coach on the sidelines, a referee, or the hype person with pom poms? What role you like, and why is that?
I would say I'm more of a coach, but I kind of like all three of them, because I feel like there's, the like bringing back the team and like, here's the strategy. But then also, I have live listened to calls where I'm a ref, and I'm like, no, do not say that. Like I'm listening to negotiation happen, especially in ramp. I listen to calls like live, and I was giving them feedback on the spot. So then in that sense, I feel like it's more of a ref of like making sure. And then I am the hype person, because I am cheering them on over and over and over again, whether they did well, whether they did not so well. It's about where they started and where they've grown. So I try to be people's biggest cheerleader as well.
Yeah, that's so important, right? I mean, like the moment you are being a biggest cheerleader and the process of teaching them and getting better, I think the enthusiasm to learn and progress grows higher and higher, where I think they'll be producing greater results in this.
Yeah, definitely agree there.
So, do you believe in keeping role plays short and sharp or long and realistic, like an actual sales call? And what are the reasons for that?
I think each has its place. I think if you're, starting out in a new role, going through the entire process, right? From, the demo and the negotiation, and, if you are sharing a slide deck, the slide deck, right? And practicing that whole process over and over again. But then I think once you understand the whole process, then it doesn't need to be, oh, we're going to do a role play, got to go through the whole thing. If there's just one piece, right? Like maybe it's the way you're doing discovery, or the way you're negotiating, or the way you're objection handling. And then it can be, short and to the point, like you mentioned. So there's a place for both.
Very nice. Very interesting. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, right? Like probably even when you are switching between SDRs and AEs, it makes difference also. Like sometimes the discovery calls are longer, or probably the other calls are taking time and all. So, Paty, if you could design the perfect role play, right? So, what are those three elements that you would always want to include?
The three areas that I would always want to include.
Yeah, like in a perfect role play, what are those three elements that you always make sure that they are there without missing?
Well, the first one I would say is objections. There's always some need for objections. Sometimes it's not as direct of an objection, right? So I think that that's something that's very, very important. Qualifying, whether you're an AE or an SDR, qualifying the prospect is something that is a great thing to practice for a great role play, right? Making sure like this is actually somebody that is going to buy and is going to buy now, right? And then lastly is some sort of close, right? For an SDR, it would be you're closing on the appointment, you're getting the demo, and then for the AE, obviously you're closing the sale. So I would say those three things make a pretty complete role play.
Very interesting. The moment you said objections, right? So the first thing that went in my mind is like when you have these competitive exams that they do, like you practice a lot as much as possible because you have to run with the time, respond very intelligent and in a polite way, right? I think that's what it's right, and that's a very realistic place where you don't know how to deal with. You're not aware of what kind of questions you're coming up, practicing 1,000 questions, and maybe your objections are probably there among those 1,000. Very interesting.
I will
Yeah.
say, I think there's a misconception that there's like thousands of objections, but most objections fit into like 4 categories, right? Even like as crazy as like the I'm going on maternity objection, it's a time objection, right? And if you can categorize immediately like an objection like that, okay, well, how would I handle somebody saying, I don't have time or I don't have the urgency to do this now because they're going on maternity leave? Then like I know how to respond to this. So that's another piece of role playing as well, with regards to objections.
Wow, that's very interesting. And I like understanding which bucket this belongs to and then respond accordingly. Very smart. So Paty, like as a career coach for faith-driven SDRs and AEs, how do personal values shape the way someone shows up in sales?
Great question. I think it depends on how much those personal values are just personal, as in like I practice them at home and like I don't bring them with me versus like I carry them with me everywhere and they dictate who I am, right? Which hopefully is the goal. And hopefully that's there. But I would say it dictates sales conversations in how people present themselves, the ethics, right, that play into it. We all like hear jokes where they're like the salesperson's like, yeah, we can do this, we can build it, and like they're like mismatching things or misrepresenting what they actually do, right? So I think that's the big piece. It comes from like integrity and ethics and communication as well, right? The level of respect that they have for the prospects, how they show up, all of that shows up in everyday communication in sales calls.
Interesting. Very nice. So one interesting question I have again. So when preparing for when preparing someone for a tough interview, right? Like how much is about practicing answers versus building confidence? How do you handle that while
Great
preparing?
question. A great answer said without confidence is absolutely wasteful, I would say. You might as well have said something else, right? Because sales is a transfer of emotions. And especially when you're interviewing for a sales role, for any interview, confidence is important, but especially for a sales role, that confidence that, this is me, this is how I respond, this is how I act is huge. So I would say whenever I coach somebody, the confidence piece comes first, right? And building that confidence, right? So whatever their track might be of like, oh, I've gotten rejected so many times, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if this is something that, I can even apply for this role. It's about, reshifting that mindset first, right? Because I can give them a perfect answer, right? And usually we come up with the answers together because I don't just want to be like, here's how you respond, right? That can be like perfectly worded, but if they don't truly believe that, they're not going to be able to sell themselves, right? That emotion isn't going to be there. And so confidence comes before having any great answers for sure.
Wonderful. I was also wondering. We're on the same lines, and I resonate with what you said. Because without confidence, no matter even if we wanted to learn and all, probably there is always that fear inside, deep inside, which will bring us down. And without that, it's not helpful. So, Patty, what's your favorite transformation story of someone you coached, from struggling rep to standout performer?
I think this is one of the first people I have coached, which I think maybe that's part of the reason it's special, because I was just starting out and I was like, does anybody even want to work with me as a person? I coached this one rep who was transitioning from being a small business owner to wanting to become an SDR. And he had been, doing interviews and getting rejected, not getting opportunities. And he's like, nobody's giving me a chance because I haven't done the sales. We first off talking about mindset, broke down, why is it that you want to do this? And what have you done in your business? Right. And this person had built like a multi-million dollar business. They'd close multiple $100,000 deals all over the world, right? And I'm like, I would have never known that looking at your resume. I would have never known that based on the questions we just did. Like, why isn't that brought up, right? And so honing in and really focusing on the transferable skills of like, you have been doing sales. You build an entire business, which is all sales. You have to sell to, your distributors. You have to sell to your partners. You have to sell to your customers, right? All of that comes in a play. And it was like a light bulb moment for him, to be able to do that. And, he ended up, doing really well in his interviews, landing a role, at a well-respected, company, and is doing well. He's on track for, last time I talked to him, he's on track for a promotion now. And so that's probably one of the, I guess, most impactful stories I have for coaching.
Wonderful, Patty. Probably it felt like the proud teacher moment.
Yes. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
proud of everybody that, does well and goes through coaching and stuff. And I obviously want to make sure that anybody that works with me, it's an investment, right? And it's all ROI, right? They get that return on that investment way more than what they might have paid or spent time on.
Yeah. See. So I have a follow-up question. See, did you feel very challenging to coach a person in the process, where because of probably some other reasons like attitude or their past or anything that you felt was very difficult, and then your patience had to really kick in there?
Great question. I would say in my enablement role, yes, because I didn't get to pick who I worked with. In my coaching business, if you're not somebody that wants to put in the effort and you're looking for like a quick fix solution, I had somebody be like, well, what can I pay you so that you can just apply for me? And I'm like, this is not how this works. I don't care if you're paying me $1,000 a session. Maybe, I don't know. Well, but it was a pretty penny that what this person was offering. I'm like, this isn't about, me just doing the work for you. It's about, like, I was going back to the mission, right? Empowering you, right? And I don't want to work with those people. So I would probably say, like, I avoid that. And I usually meet with everybody before they sign up or pay for anything. And if it's not a fit, then it's not a fit. And I've let people know, it sounds like, what you're looking for isn't necessarily a fit with what I'm aiming to do. And, good luck. With enablement and stuff, I think I had to rely on some prayer when there were people that I was training, and I was like, how do you not get it? Like, we have talked about this multiple times. I have like videos about it. We did live sessions about it. We have an SOP about this. And just, trying to remember that, maybe they have stuff in their life that's going on, but it's frustrating, I would say.
True. Yeah, great. I mean, so much patience is needed in handling. I mean, especially coaching bright people is easier when it comes to people who wanted to passionately work, but trying to take some time to learn and all is where the real challenge is, right? I think that's wonderful to coach them, and then the moment you see the progress in them, I think you'll be like, wow. The mic drop moment, right? Interesting.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Just wanted to get into the latest tech part, right? So role plays today are mostly human to human, but with AI creeping into sales training, do you think representatives could benefit from practicing against AI prospect before facing the real thing?
I think they can. And I think it depends on how realistic that AI model is trained, right? Because what we don't want is for them to get a false sense of confidence and then go into, the real world and realize like, wow, okay, I'm not ready for this, right? If they're not giving like the feedback that they need and the objections that are going to come up. But if the AI is right and it's responding quickly and in real time and it's trained on what that specific company, because I know there's different ways to go about that. It's trained on that. I think it can be beneficial. It just depends on how it's built and the way it works. Mhm.
Sorry. So if you had an AI role play partner available 24/7, right? So what's that one scenario you would want every salesperson to practice over and over again?
Oh, great question. Um, I would say the biggest one is and it's gonna sound so cliche. So I'm sorry for that. But the I'm not interested. Because I tell people like I'm not interested is not an actual objection. It's a wall that you then need to dig deeper into why they're not interested. Is it budget? Is it time? And talking about the different categories. Is it urgency? Right? Is it they don't see a need, right? And until you uncover that, you are just dealing with like a facade of an objection. And so I would say that that's the biggest thing because people are like, oh, you're not interested. Well, we have a discount. Well, we have this. And I'm like, well, do you know why they're not interested? Do you know where that came from? And so I would say that's probably as cliche as it is. That's probably the biggest one that people get still stumped by.
No, this is very amazing, Patty. I mean, I never realized that. So there is not interested is a very common answer that keep coming, right? Probably 80% of the times when the SDRs are reaching out or cold calling, especially, right? So in this process, I mean, practicing for not interested and handling that, I think that's like an amazing where your results are like probably going to be 10x, like once you crack it open, right? I think it's a very interesting answer. I mean, really loved the way you mentioned it. So,
I'm glad it was useful.
yeah, I mean, I never thought about it. Nor I came across in any of my conversations with a lot of sales reps or sales coaches that I've talked earlier and all. So it's very interesting way of a very point of view. So Patty, we are almost at the end of the podcast. So I have few rapid fire questions for you. You can go in detail also. So role play gone wrong. What's your funniest memory?
Oh man. I don't know. I know it's supposed to be rapid fire, and now I feel like I'm getting put on the
Yeah,
spot.
you can go in detail also, or maybe you can
Yeah,
give more
probably
experiences
somebody
also.
just like hanging up and being like, "Ah, line got disconnected." Like, click. That is probably the fastest one I can think of.
Okay, okay. So coffee before coaching, must have or optional?
Optional because I don't drink coffee. I drink tea. I have
Okay.
chai. That's
Oh,
my
very
go-to.
nice. Awesome. Worst sales advice you have ever heard, and why do you think it's
Worst
best?
sales advice?
Yeah,
Um, we're always be closing. You don't need to have that mindset. Always be curious is the right ABCs.
got it. So be curious, but not uh, talking about numbers and all. I think that answers in itself. So if you had to role play as a any fictional character, right? Who would it be and why?
Great question. I would probably, this is so funny. I don't know. I don't know if Hello Kitty talks. So that's the first one that came to mind because I was like, that'd be kind of interesting to try to just like, I don't know, respond with like gestures or something. So that's my answer. Hello Kitty, apparently.
Very nice. Very, very interesting. So, more nerve wracking. A live sales call, a podcast interview, or a karaoke night?
Karaoke night, 100%. I cannot sing, and if anybody tries to get me on stage for karaoke, I don't go. Nope, it's not happening.
Oh my god, this is a very surprising. A coach who doesn't want to go and sing. Maybe.
I'm not afraid. I'll like go up there and do stand up, but I will not sing.
Very nice. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Patty. I mean, this is a very insightful conversation I had. I hope you enjoyed and I didn't bore you in the process of discussion.
No,
I
I had a
hope you
great
loved it.
conversation.
Yeah. Thank you so much for taking time, and I'm sure most of our listeners will enjoy this conversation and the insightful thoughts and experiences you shared. And thank you so much for your time.